Welcome back to the Bearded Bulletin Podcast, everybody. My name is Don. I'm your host. And if you follow me on YouTube, you also know Bearded Excursions and Outdoors is where a lot of my video content lives. So we're doing something a little bit different today. This is a video podcast. And so as you can see, I have a guest with me. This is Ryan, who's been my best bud for 20 plus years right now. Ryan, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So we're just this is what I call unscripted. We don't really have anything. I've got three questions that I'm going to throw at you, and we'll kind of talk from there. But we're just going to kind of go over some different topics. But I guess first and foremost, just because this just happened this weekend, and we're so excited, college football is back, baby. And now that college football is back, what's one game or storyline you're most excited about this season? It could be NFL or college.
Sure. So to be clear, when you say we're excited about college football, you mean you are excited about college football.
Absolutely.
There's one more thing on TV to watch, but I am not nearly as invested in it as you are. But because you are an LSU fan and you're my friend, and I like to tease you about that, the greatest high school in Louisiana, LSU. And my wife went to University of Texas. I'm hoping that I haven't looked at the schedule again. I'm not that diehard. Did they play each other this year?
No, we don't play unless we meet in the playoffs. Not part of the regular season.
Right. So that's all I'm doing. I'm watching the entire season, hoping that LSU and Texas meet in the playoffs somehow, and then I get to root for kind of against you. Really, realistically, I'm going to root for my.
And I can't blame you for that because you have to live with your wife. So I don't blame you for that. But it's pretty exciting. So huge win for LSU going on the road to Clemson and being able to really do something they haven't done in 5 years, and that's win a season opener. So I was pretty excited about that.
Rough for Texas, those poor guys. So much. Let's talk, but unless everyone was watching a different game than I saw, it was relatively close. It wasn't like anybody dominated or got blown out of the water, and Texas underperformed and still hung in there and had a chance, So I don't know. Yep. I don't think it was the dooming the season that some people seem to think it is. Well, time will tell.
It doesn't doom the season at all. In fact, in this environment, one of the commentators actually said you're not going to see these undefeated teams just go all the way to the playoffs anymore, not with the schedules that they have. And UT has Arch Manning. It's his first start really in this environment on that stage. And he's got some maturity to deal with and things like that. So you just expect that from a new quarterback. So people that are writing him off, he's a talented kid, and his career is not written in stone yet. You got to watch for it because and as the season goes on, he's going to get a lot better too. That can be said of being a team, but honestly, I mean, they're loaded with talent at UT, and they got a great coach, Steve Sarkisian. So,
yeah, and then credit to a commentator that mentioned this because I didn't know this about college football. I think you confirmed it in another conversation we had, in that early in the season, apparently the defenses are going to be a lot more solid than the offense because the defense runs, zones, and it's not something new to them, where the offense needs time to mesh with each other and get a lot of timing down, and that improves throughout the year on a learning curve greater than what the defense will experience.
Right.
Explain.
Yeah, 100%. You're going to see that. In fact, you saw it in some of the first games. Like if you watched any of the games, I'll let you included, it took Nussmeier a little bit to get kind of comfortable. It took him a quarter and a half to kind of get in his zone a little bit and mesh and do some good matchups. So yeah, it takes time. And then over the season, every team is just going to get stronger. And that's what in the college football playoff system, they talk about strength of schedule and how that's going to play into the deciding factors for a lot of these playoff teams. And I think that's very real, and it's a decent expectation because you can't go out there and be undefeated and just beat all these cupcake teams. You've got to be able to prove that you're worth something. And so, when we go out there and you play the number 4 ranked team in the country like LSU did, I would have been so upset and just heartbroken had they lost. But it also was a very tough game. It wasn't an easy win. And so a lot of times those games they're really fun to watch. I mean, they get you on the edge of your seat, your heart gets pumping, but at the end of the day, the victory's sweeter because of it. So
Yeah.
it was a fun game to watch, and credit to Clemson. I love Dabo Sweeney. He's just a good dude all the way around. He's a great coach. He's been to the national championship more than once, and so in fact, the last time LSU played in the national championship, it was against Clemson. So that was the last time we met each other, and was in 2020 at the 2019 college football championship.
Another game that I caught just parts of it, but it looked like it was probably one of the better games of the weekend was Florida State versus Alabama. Did they play this weekend?
Yeah, they sure did. Yeah, so Alabama, and the shocker was everybody was thinking that Alabama was just going to dominate, right? Because Florida State, I think they had some hiccups. Maybe they'd lost their last 5 games or something. I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate, but I think they were coming off of somewhat of a losing streak. And so everybody just expected Alabama to go out there and dominate. And Alabama, the physicality, just in my observations of the game, it just wasn't what you're used to seeing with Alabama. And the Seminoles, man, they showed up to play, and they put a big old exclamation point on that game. So yeah, that was a good game to watch too. But again, just like we talked about before, I wouldn't count Alabama out just yet. I know Alabama fans are a lot like LSU fans, and whenever something goes wrong, we want to jump ship. We want to right the ship immediately, fire the coach, call for all this craziness. But you got to give it time, man. You got to give it time.
How many teams make the playoffs? Like, again, I should know this.
It's a 12-team playoff.
So you can make the top 12, right? If you make the top 12, it's like a whole new season. Starts over.
So. So it's going to be fun. A lot of the playoffs now, if I understand correctly, a lot of those games kind of take the place of bowl games too. Bowl games used to be really, really big. They still are, but a lot of that just kind of takes that place now. So everybody's fighting to get to the top, and that's the ultimate goal, is to get to that college football championship. And it seems like, I don't know, over the last few years, it seems like way more people are really getting into college football. And it's kind of fun for me because you can watch these players develop, and then they go and you can watch their success in the NFL, and so it's just kind of fun because I always like to point out, hey, they played for LSU. That person played for LSU. Hey, so it's just a fun.
Yeah, there was a guy I used to work with. His kid played at LSU, and then he went on to play in the NFL, but I don't even remember. You probably remember more because I'm talking about than I do.
Yep.
I'm talking about.
Yep.
What's the kid's name?
Grant Delpit. Yeah.
Delpit. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he played defense for the Tigers. So yeah, so it was a great too. But well, yeah, it's just a fun time of year. So I was extremely excited. Man, I cleared my whole schedule and just watched football all day on Saturday. It was great. So
nice.
Yeah, I can't wait. Again. So, and then the leading up to college football starting off, I mean, you've got all ESPN, the SEC network, all these networks they're talking a lot and they're just getting you amped up. And so it's just a good feeling. And then football being here, it also means that cooler weather, maybe would be more specific, is not that far away now. And I'm excited about that too.
Here this weekend. Speaking of that, we had this big storm blow through that down in Houston where I'm at, lots of flooding because of the storm, cars, I swear 3 million people have lived here forever and they still drive through deep water and get their car stuck. At some point, you got to realize, stop doing that. It's ridiculous.
But turn around, don't drown. Yeah.
Well, not even drowning, but like every time it rains here, you see on the news, dozens of cars flooded, and like, unless you're trying to claim insurance, why are you driving in the water? Stop that.
Yeah, it just creates havoc. So stay safe.
So, question to you. A big theme about camping that we always talk about is how you recharge and everything. Is a weekend where you just focus in watching football, college football, like this weekend, a recharge event, or is it something different?
So I look at college football as strictly entertainment value for me. I absolutely love it. I love to follow it. So in a way, it recharges my batteries, but that's not the focus. Because when I think about the recharge that you mentioned in the outdoors, that recharge is a lot more intentional and it's a lot more grounding. And I spend a little bit more time in reflection and prayer outside. But we're coming up on a point in time where I like to blend the two together. Last September, I
God and
went.
football? You like to blend God and LSU together?
No, I like to blend outdoors and football together. So like I'll
Oh,
take my iPad with me and I may put the game on. I may be doing something completely outdoorsy. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, the game, I don't want to miss the game. I want to watch it. It's a good game this week. So I'll put it on my iPad and I'll sit out there and eat dinner and just relax. But camping in itself, like when I do in the off season meaning the off season for football, is just strictly to get out there and recharge. I mean, like we planned a big trip last year. We went down to South Texas. You were there for that, and it was a lot of fun just to kind of go out and do that. I think this year we're looking somewhere further out in the hill country towards Uvalde, so it's going to be a little bit further away. But you're supposed to this ranch out there. It's got like 6,000 acres or something. You can pretty much camp anywhere on it. So I'm really looking forward to that. We got to narrow those days down pretty soon. Come to think of it, but the
we're
reach that I get outside is just different. It's more spiritual, I think.
we're looking at taking a small little next time. It's maybe a 3 or 4 day weekend somewhere out west. I need to look it up. There is this natural spring that the town or state park, I guess, it's some kind of park, has turned into a swimming pool, and it's several acres. I think it's almost 2 acres of water, and on each, and it's a U shape, it's kind of like a horseshoe. And from what I can tell on the website, each side is sets up just like a swimming pool. They paved it off and everything, and it looks like a swimming pool. And that just naturally slopes off into a 25-foot quasi small lake area that's spring fed and crystal clear and like 75 degrees year round.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
you can scuba dive in the 25-foot area or swim up in the area that has the lifeguard and the ladder and everything. It's just like a pool. And we're going to go check that out. It'll be a neat place, especially if you're new or to scuba diving, because it's not super deep. It's 25 feet. You can almost pop straight up safely. Don't, for those that scuba dive. I'm not advocating that, but the risk of danger is pretty low and crystal clear. And even though it is a swimming area, that little natural spring still keeps live animals in it, like naturally. There's fish in there, there's turtles in
Oh,
there, vegetation, but crystal clear, comfortable water year round. So we're going to go check that out. And I don't know if you ever get your scuba certification, you can come with us, or you could hang out up at the pool while we go scuba diving or
snorkel
something.
at the top. I'll
Yeah,
snorkel,
go pull at the top. Yeah, absolutely.
wave. But
And
no, that's awesome. It seems like CJ was telling me. Maybe I wonder if it's the same place CJ was telling me about. It sounds like it out in West Texas. Is it fairly close to Big Bend?
I
Um,
think it is out in that area. Yeah, in general terms,
I
close.
think
Yeah.
maybe further north. So Big Bend's like way west and south, and this seems like I want to say it's like far west, but maybe not as far south as Big Bend is
Yeah.
possibly. But
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
at first, I
So
thought you were talking about the Devil's River Natural Area out in Texas too. That's not quite as far west, but that doesn't have a swimming pool. It's just like supposedly one of the most beautiful scenic rivers in the state of Texas. A lot of people kayak on it. Super clear water. They've got some really cool camping and stuff out there too. But the
you
place you're
can
talking about,
to scuba dive out there at all, or is it just
no, you
like
can't scuba dive. It's not deep enough to do that. But
yeah,
you're talking about a river that maybe 8 to 12 feet in its deepest area, probably. Maybe some pools that are deeper than that, but it's relatively shallow. Going through
yeah?
that.
I'm really big on finding clear water now, because the last time we went out, I have a daughter. She's 14. When she was 12, I think, is when we got her certified as a scuba diver, and she wants to be a marine biologist. So we're fostering and trying to encourage that in her. As long as she wants to pursue it, we're gonna support it. And so she got certified, and there's a place up in Huntsville that's about an hour north of Houston. For those that don't know, it's called Blue Lagoon, and it's a
Mhm.
rock quarry that is no longer active, and it's kind of filled in with water. It goes down to about 30 feet, and it's relatively clear. I say relatively. It can get cloudy, especially on the weekend when you get a bunch of people out there scuba diving, and they teach classes out there to get certified. And so you have a lot of inexperienced divers that like to or don't know any better. They get on the bottom, they kick up the silt. It becomes very cloudy, very murky, pretty quick
Yeah.
if you got people on the bottom. And we went out there. We've been scuba diving several times, but I was swimming, leading her, and my wife is a scuba diver. She got certified one time. I tricked her into it. I surprised her with a cruise, and we wanted to go scuba diving on the cruise, but I didn't tell her any of that. I'm just, hey, let's just go get scuba certified. She's like, okay, I guess. What a weirdo. And she almost quit halfway through it. I finally just tell her, we're doing this because we're going on a cruise. Suck it up. Focus. And it wasn't quite the romantic gesture it was meant to be, but it worked out. And but my point being, we were at Blue Lagoon, and I'm swimming ahead of them, and those two right behind me paired up as buddies. And I turn around, and my daughter's not there. And I'd been checking back, and I swear it was a matter of seconds that I turn around, I'm checking, and she's gone. And then I hear her banging on her tank, ding, 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 which is as a signal, but we never had at that point worked out like if 1 or 2 or 3 dings is danger, or I need help or whatever. Like there's a code there you should have worked out ahead of time. And so I just ding back, ding, 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 and then she dings back. I'm looking for her, I can't find her. But underwater, at least I can't tell where the ding is coming from. There's no directional noise. And it turns out what happened, she got separated from us, and she did the right thing. She surfaced and went up there. But I didn't know where she was. And so I'm frantically searching for her. And finally, I grabbed my wife and resurfaced, and my plan was I'm going to look for her bubbles wherever they're at and go follow her bubbles back down and help her. That's wherever she's at. When we get up there, and she's right there waiting on us, she's like, hey, where you been? I'm like, where have you been? She scared me to death. So my point is, that's why I like scuba diving where it's super clear, because you don't lose your 14-year-old daughter that way.
Well, shout out to her, because that's some pretty serious common sense right there. So kudos to her for that.
Yeah, but trust me,
it's scared, no doubt, but yeah.
Scared me to death.
And I remember that place because I went with you one time. That's where they sank some boats or something. And so like you and I went, I think your wife was there too. And I went down there, but I remember it being like kind of like a greenish looking pool, maybe. When you get down there, it's super cloudy. Like it's hard to see what you're talking about. So
yeah, it depends on days where for whatever reason there hasn't been any traffic or rain for like water to flow into it and stir it up. If it's been dry for a week and nobody's been in there, it could be really clear. But you have to have the perfect conditions, or else it's going to be kind of murky all the time.
Yeah, that's an awesome place. So for people, there's just so much. Like you always hear people say, "Oh, there's nothing to do in this town. There's nothing to do in this town." But if you look hard enough, you can find some pretty unique things to experience around in any part of Texas, really. So that being one of them, like prior to you guys getting involved in scuba diving, I had no idea this place existed. The first time I ever heard of it is when you were telling me about it. So
yeah, and I think about an hour and a half away from here is, they say Houston is an hour and a half away from Houston, and they're not wrong. And so when you say, oh, I'm going to go an hour and a half somewhere, that's not that far in Texas. It's not far at all. When I was a kid, we lived up in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and we were going somewhere for something with my parents, and they told the neighbors, oh yeah, we're going to this next town over. It's like an hour away. And are you going to spend the night? And I'm like, no, we're not going to spend the night. They're like, but it's an hour away and an hour back. I'm like, yeah, that's like the grocery store in Texas. But so I guess it's all relative. Up in like the East Coast, there's like states that are closer together than Texas is from Texas. It's ridiculous. Or Houston is from Houston.
Yeah, I saw another day on Facebook or something, somebody was talking about they had some European friends, and their European friends were like, hey, if we're going to El Paso, Texas, we should swing by and visit with you. And they live in Houston. They're like, people from outside, they don't understand how big Texas is. So they took the picture of the state of Texas and put it on the European map and sent it to them. We're like, that's how big Texas is. Yeah. So it's just funny because people, if you're not from that area, you just don't know. I'm sure Alaska, it's even worse. The place is lost.
My wife's been. I have not been to Europe. My wife has been, and it's funny how. Oh yeah, we got on a train and we went to like 4 other countries. And I'm like, when? She's like, oh, Tuesday. I'm like, what? How did you go to 4 countries on a Tuesday on a train? But apparently over there, that's a thing.
Yeah, that's a lot of travel over there. I saw it. It's on my bucket list to get over there maybe one day. I mean, it just depends, but if the opportunity ever presents itself. But I think Ireland would be a fun place to travel to. Maybe even England, France, Italy, a lot of places over there. I'd like to see Scotland too, for the like a lot of historical content and stuff. It just would be
You
kind
want
of
to
neat.
you want to go to Ireland and Scotland for the beer? Don't lie.
Well, I mean, that's definitely an upside. I would have to say, but definitely where Guinness would,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're talking about my 14-year-old daughter. She wanted a peanut butter and jelly sandwich earlier, and we were out of bread. And I said, "Well, we got hamburger buns." And she was like, "Ooh, gross. That's just good." And I admit, if you do straight hamburger bun, it's pretty bready. But I just took the top bun and I cut it in half, and then made the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's perfect. It's really nice. It's good.
It's got the perfect bread to jelly to peanut butter ratio. That's what you're looking
Absolutely.
for.
Right.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. I've done that before too. My wife thinks I'm crazy because sometimes if I just want a snack, I'll just make 2 pieces of bread, put mayo on both pieces, and just like a piece of cheese, and just have a cheese and mayo sandwich. And she thinks that's disgusting, but it's a good
Nah,
snack.
I'll side with her. I like mayonnaise. I like cheese. I like bread, but that sounds disgusting.
Hey man, it's good. I like it. There's a lot of people that make grilled cheeses with mayo. Instead of putting butter on the bread, they'll put mayo on it and then use it on a griddle. Have you tried that before?
No, I've heard of it, but I mean, you
I
have
haven't
butter. Why would you
tried.
use mayo?
I may try it. I mean, I like it, so I may experiment with that one day. I don't know. But so shifting gears a little bit, um, you and I've kind of had some real talks off camera and off mic about faith and things like that. But um, just for the viewers, like, what's one play? What do you do to recharge yourself? Like, what do you do that helps you reconnect with God when you feel like you need that? What do you?
Spiritually, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
anytime we talk about the subject, I always like to preface it with a long time ago. I went to a small private Christian school growing up, and so we had chapel on Friday as well as every day started with Bible class from you get there 8:15 to 9. So your first period every single day was Bible class, and ours was with the coach. So I mean, it wasn't always super spiritually deep because the coach would want to talk about like the basketball plays for the week too during Bible class sometimes, but
yeah.
for the most part, it was on topic. And he was kind of showed us this chart, and I see it in my life and I see it in other people's lives that Christianity isn't this point where you get use a screen, you get saved here and you either instantly jump up here and you're super spiritual, or you start here and there's just a steady, perfect line graph. My daughter's taking algebra 1 this year, and this perfect line graph like this straight up. No, it kind of, you go up and then there's a little bit of dip or a valley, and you go up and it's down, and it almost looks like maybe like the stock market chart, or something like that. You get the idea. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I found that when you're new or younger, or at least with me, these are bigger. These ups and downs are bigger, right? But it is always still on a steady trend up and down. And then as you get older, there's still a little waves, but my waves have kind of evened out, right? And so when I find myself in a lower wave, the good news is it's not that hard to come back up because I didn't go down as far. I keep a nice steady, even keel, for lack of a better term. And so when I feel like I've gotten too down in a trough, there's no like again, we talked about with you with camping, that feels like it. But I think part of that too, you're not just camping, but it gives you a chance to think, to meditate, to study the word. And that's all it is with me, wherever that is. So if you want to make it easy, get on your phone, just get the Bible app, and there's free apps that will do a morning Bible study. And my drive into work every day is about 50 minutes. I can just punch on a 15-minute daily bread kind of Bible study, and that helps recharge and keep it steady. But I find when I'm getting low, it's because I'm not being consistent. And so I want to come back out of that. I just start being consistent again, and you're kind of getting fed daily. And when you feed, when if you get fed, you get bigger, you grow, right?
Yeah.
And not always in a good way, but so that's it. That's just I find consistency in feeding myself on a regular basis is a way to be more consistent and to get back out of the trough and to grow again.
Yeah. And I like what you said at first. You were kind of talking about the gaps, like the from point to point, on the wavelength, you've got these big gaps. And I think about it, and we all start off as cover Christians, like the first step is like, hey, let's go to church. and you do that, but you can go and sit in church, but I can go and sit in a garage and I can be there for a long time. It's never going to make me a car. It's the same
Right.
thing for Christians, right? You can go and sit in church, but until you practice and you're intentional with your faith, that's when you're going to see the better results. And as far as like being a Christian goes. And so I think that you identified something like really meaningful, because we all go through that, especially as if you're raised in a Christian household. I know you and I were both raised in a Christian household, but as young adults, you tend to like prioritize different things in your life, and church kind of drops for a little bit, and then you kind of get back into it. And so
You kind
I
of
think
become
it's
Amish a little bit and do that thing with the Amish kids that get to go crazy for a year or whatever. Whatever it's
yeah,
called.
yeah. And so I forgot what there is a name for that, but I don't know what it is. But yeah, good point. But yeah, it's so true, and so I think about my walk with Jesus today looks so much different than the walk with Jesus at 20, you know, and I think it's just important. And yeah, it's just kind of one of those things in life where you have to slow down and process it, and sometimes you have to. They talk about studying the Bible, and man, that's so true, because like I can read a different Bible verse 3 or 4 different times and get something different out of it almost each time that I read it, depending on what the context is. And so it does take some study and some interpretation when it comes to that. So it's
Yeah.
exciting to see and hear young people starting their faith journey. And I don't know if it's because I'm looking more for it, but it seems like it's out there. Maybe I want to believe that it's out there. I know this world's a little crazy, but sometimes I see little bright glimpses of people out there, and it makes me happy.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I don't know what it is, why we're noticing it more lately, but people seem to be more public with their faith, even, athletes
Yeah,
at all levels, right? You watch all the college football and they're more public with their faith, unashamed. You even see it if you're, into social media more than I am, but I'll scroll through some things every now and then, and that's a lot more out there, and people are unapologetic. Ironically, the name for it is apologetics, meaning to defend the faith, right? But
yeah,
unapologetically defending the faith, and I like how myself, I enjoy the intellectual side of it, where they can explain things. What you got going on there?
yeah. I
But
don't know. I don't know if it was a giant bug. I'm not sure what that was, but sorry.
oh, it's all good. But I kind of enjoy those debates when they get a little bit deeper and they get into the history and theology and all those things. And there is a lot deeper way of looking at faith and justification than just a pure, shallow, blind faith, or the opposite of that is that kind of pure, shallow hatred. Um, or, and I don't know why this comes to mind, but recently there was a school shooting in Minnesota, right? And there's
Yeah,
been more before that, but in this particular one, it's very early. But it appears that that young person, I say young, they're 23, had a lot going on in their life, and they appeared to have targeted the school that they did go to, and their mom worked at some point. But they were targeted because they knew they were Christians, and that's those little kids did nothing wrong,
yeah,
and he just decided that because of his shallow misunderstanding of Christianity, that he was somehow justified or making a statement by killing those kids and attacking that school. And so that shallow hatred of Christianity is ignorance, I think. And so same thing with like a shallow faith. It's you need to have a deeper faith than that. And you need to not also have a shallow hatred either. That's a weird tangent, not a complete thought, and I apologize, but it came to mind.
no. It makes sense to me, and I'm sure everybody else too. I mean, the way Christianity is and God's love for us, it's as human beings, we can't even begin to comprehend the level of grace that He has extended to every single one of us, right? We just, it's just hard to imagine. We know it's there, and we know we're forgiven only by the grace of God and Jesus, but it's deep, and we won't really completely understand that until we cross over to that other side, God willing. So, but yeah, I know that in times of anguish and stress, and I got a lot going on in my life. my mom's battling Alzheimer's disease. I lost my brother last October, so coming up on a year here before too long. And there's some other stressors that are out there. And, you know, two things can happen. You can be pushed further away. You can say, God, why is all this happening to me? Why me, God? Why won't you do anything? Well, but luckily, that did not happen with me. I never once questioned, gee, God, why me? Because I know that God never promises to remove all of our burdens. He just promises to be there with us and be alongside us while it's happening so that we can get through it. And I think that over the last 2 to 3 years, my walk with God has gotten deeper and way more intentional, doing Bible studies and going to church regularly, trying to find moments of faith outside. And it's helped me tremendously, more so than any pill ever could, and no, I'm not knocking that. I know that sometimes people have to have certain medications to kind of help balance out. So I am 100% on board with that. It's just, I want people to know that sometimes when you take that leap of faith and you ask God to come and help you, you're going to get that help, and that's what happened to me. So
Yeah, and I
my,
think
my little
part of
testimony.
part of that conversation is also, you had said that it sounded like you almost instantly went to turning to God unquestioningly. But there's nothing wrong with asking questions. I mean, there's examples all throughout the Bible. I mean, the obvious one is Job, right?
Yeah.
Where, and he even tells us in the story that he was a blameless. He didn't do anything wrong. He basically was just like this bet between God and Satan. And I'm kind of comedically paraphrased. Don't everyone
Yep.
freak out on. Um, but he's got like this innocent bet between God and Satan, and he did nothing wrong. And he questioned a lot about, why is this happening? I thought you were a good God. And eventually it worked out for him, but he kept his faith kept it steadfast, but he still, even in that, asked, why, God? And so I don't think asking why and is ever a bad thing. I don't think God holds that against us. I think he kind of expects that of us to a
Yeah,
degree.
absolutely. That's never going to be. You think of it like a prayer can almost be sometimes like a conversation with a friend. You can talk and I think what I meant was more like condemning God because of it.
Right.
And that, never a good place to go to. And I know that some people have fallen on hard times and they don't understand, but it's that deeper understanding and looking for that depth that you talked about earlier that helps you recognize that, God never promises to step in and remove everything for us. We have some paths that we've got to walk, but there's always two sets of footprints, um, mine and his. And then when it goes, what is the old poem? When it goes down to one set of footprints, that's when he carries you, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's just important to remember all of that too. So um, and just gotta stay strong and positive. And man, sometimes that's hard to do, but
Yeah, it is. I know in conversations we had, I don't know how meaningful or meaningless this was to you, but one of the things I always try to encourage you is to look back in your life, and anyone's life, there have been dark times, but typically you come out of them and things get brighter, things get better. And so while it's hard when you're in the darkness, when you're kind of wallowing in those hard times, to know that it does get better in the future. There's better things for you. So just persevere, do the best you can with it. Don't let it destroy you and take you to a really dark place. Just focus on the end of the tunnel, which will come eventually.
yeah,
You know?
this too shall pass, and
Yeah.
that's been my experience. I've lived it. And so, yeah, I can definitely say that. But, yeah, man, I appreciate you joining me, today on the Bearded Bulletin Podcast. So always a pleasure, when we get to hang out. So we're going to have to nail down those dates on that trip here before too long.
Yeah. And don't forget, we're going to go up to my folks' place and do a little fishing camping out there
Yeah.
on that land, catch some bass, and do a little fish cook, I guess. You're going to cook up some fish.
Yeah,
You got to
absolutely. We'll do a
get
catch
back.
and put that on camera. It's always a good time, man. I haven't had good fresh fish like that in a long time, and that sounds really good. Lots of good, but you said the bass are like very healthy up there too, right? You said they're like
Yeah.
some 5-pounders up there.
Yeah. Yeah, 5. I think they measured one at 6 pounds the other day. Of course, I wasn't there to see this one. I only caught a 5-pounder, so I think that's probably the biggest that's in the pond. Who knows? And we also bought some little radio controlled boats, or you can't tell from the screen, but they're about yay big. And we had them out in the pool last night, racing them around. And so we have this game we play up there sometimes where you take a rifle and one person drives the boat, the other person tries to shoot the boat and sink it. And whoever can sink it fastest wins. It's a fun game. It's a good time. It's very redneck. But when you're in Crockett, Texas, you do redneck things. That's why you're there.
Well, that's the expectation of East Texas, right? So
Yeah. The pine curtain, which they say. They call it behind the pine curtain, East Texas.
Oh my God. All right, guys. Well, that'll do it for us today. Don't forget, please check me out over on Bearded Excursions and Outdoors on YouTube. We've got this podcast that goes out every other Tuesday, and then I also have a newsletter that goes out every Sunday. Check it out on Substack. It's Bearded Excursions and Outdoors. It's the Bearded Bulletin that's over there. But until next time, I'll see you guys down the trail or around the campfire.